Hello and welcome to Retro Reviews, my channel where I review my favorite retro video games of all time, as well as some modern releases I have recently finished. But today I want to talk about Sony's stupid decision making regarding Helldivers 2. I wanted to hold off on making this video as long as I could, just in case Sony responded. I was going to record it yesterday. I'm really glad I didn't, because they finally responded. And so now I'm going to be talking about today in full, the whole context here. I'll give you the full resolution and everything. So if you're not familiar with the situation or with Helldivers 2, Helldivers 2 is a front runner for Game of the Year for sure. A multiplayer game where you drop down with your buddies, you hit the planet, you kill a bunch of bugs and cyborgs and things, and then you get some loot, you go back, upgrade your weapons, and you can do that loop over and over again. It sounds pretty simple, but in practice, this game pulls it off to perfection, and it bucks so many industry trends, gets rid of all the annoying things we hate about like multiplayer live service games, and just makes a really fun experience. The developers have been killing it, doing such a fantastic job with the game. But recently, Sony decided to stick their corporate paws into the mix and really meddle with what's already working so well. So initially, what they had is they launched it on the PlayStation and on PC, on Steam. And you could download it there and play it, no problem. But now they're implementing a rule where you have to sign into your PSN account, which seems fairly innocuous and not that big of a deal. There are plenty other games and services that make you sign into an external system, like Ubisoft, Epic Games if you're playing Fortnite. It's not that big of a deal on the surface. Where the problem lies, or it's twofold here. The first thing is that so many countries, I think it was 170 plus countries, you can't log into PSN. You can't create a PSN through wherever you live. So you can't now access the game that you already purchased several months back, because now you're required to get a PSN, which is not allowed in your country. So suddenly all the people that have this game on PC can't log into a PSN account legally, and if they try and do something like utilize a different like country, like a VPN, they could get banned, permanently banned from their account for doing so, for violating like the terms of service and everything. So there's no good workaround for them to manage this. It was a huge, massive mistake here. Now, to be fair, I guess, to give a tiny ounce of credit to Sony here, not going to give them much in this video, they did state early on in the terms of service, your agreement that you make when you buy the game through Steam, that you were going to be required to sign into PSN, but they weren't enforcing it at all. They didn't say that they were going to be implementing it down the line. They just said that you needed to do it, but the people didn't have to, so they didn't do that. And so now, suddenly, several months later, when the game is super successful on PlayStation and on PC, Sony decides they want to boost their numbers, allegedly. This is kind of my conjecture and what I've seen other people talk about. They allegedly want to just boost their numbers on PSN, make it look like more people are playing on the PlayStation network. So they're requiring people to sign in. Again, if he was just making an account, it wouldn't take that long. Link it up, and then you can go play. But because it removed access to people that previously had access to this game, that is a major L. Because now, all of a sudden, if you bought this game several months back, Steam doesn't offer those refunds after you've played a certain amount of hours. Very fortunately, Steam, being the good guys in this situation, decided they were going to give refunds for the affected players because they have no recourse. They can't play the game anymore. They can't enjoy the thing they already purchased. So for the users that were affected by it, at least they had some recompense here. They can get their refunds. A lot of people did, because they weren't going to be able to play the game. And which, again, is a massive L for Sony. A bunch of people stopped playing your game because you decided to meddle in a place where you didn't need to meddle. Nothing was wrong. The game was going so well. The momentum was there. The updates were going so well. People were flocking to this game, giving it so much praise. And suddenly, there's a ton of negative press for your game that has been a frontrunner for Game of the Year. I just don't understand what the heck they were possibly thinking here. To make it matters worse, the game got review bombed to hell and back, which is a bad thing for multiple reasons. We really needed to stick it to Sony in this instance and kind of bully the corporate suits and say, hey, we're not going to take this. We're not going to let you do something like this and restrict the game from so many people when they used to be able to play it. And so it's negative reviews for the game, which is going to tarnish its reputation overall, because even if Sony reversed their decision, a lot of people aren't going to go back and revert their negative reviews because of how angry they were at the situation. Hopefully a lot of them would go back, but you can never be sure, and that's likely going to bring down that score that was so positive. But even worse, it's a negative reflection on the devs, and they have been working so hard to make this game fantastic, and it's clear that they didn't want this to happen. They have like account managers on Twitter and things talking about how we want to try and get this figured out. We're talking with Sony. They're trying to be the best they can be, but all these negative reviews negatively impact them. It reflects on their work, and they're not to blame here. So it's just a really bad situation overall. We just had negative reviews. We've got the game now unplayable in so many countries. Tons of people revolting and going off playing Helldivers 2. I'm sure this expanded to PlayStation users as well. People that saw the injustice and said, you know what, I'm not going to support Sony in doing this. And very fortunately yesterday, Sony walked back their decision. They said, we're no longer going to be implementing this rule. You don't have to sign into a PSN account to play this game anymore, which is a huge win for us, for all gamers everywhere. We got to see Sony do a quick turnaround in a very short amount of time, and they reversed their decision. It's totally fine now, but the problem is, for them especially, now all the people that got their refunds are probably not going to come back and buy the game. Hopefully they will, for Sony's sake, and for the sake of the game's health as well. You want more players there. Hopefully they come back, but the game got delisted from Steam because of all this craziness. So hopefully we get it relisted. We get people actually coming back to the game. Hopefully this doesn't tarnish the reputation of an otherwise fantastic experience that everybody loved. It's just baffling to me to see these corporate suits do things like this. It's so stupid. If you look back at other examples of this with like EA meddling with the Dead Space games way back in the day, the remake's fantastic. Thank goodness they came back to that. But back in the day, Dead Space 2 was everything Dead Space 1 was, but even better in most people's eyes. And Dead Space 3 was a huge anticipated sequel that people were chomping at the bit for. But of course, EA had to meddle in that too, making it a co-op, very action-focused, got rid of most of the scares, which Dead Space is so famous for and does better than almost any franchise anywhere, and made the game just okay. I remember beating that game and thinking, man, that was kind of a waste of time. I really wanted to see the conclusion of this game for the lore, but I kind of regret playing this game at all. That's what happens when these big corporate people decide, hey, you know what? This game's going super well. Let's try and make it better for us. Let's try and capitalize on this success. And instead, they just muddy things up. The best thing for Helldivers 2 is for Sony to stay out of it. You have the devs, you have the success, you have all the sales, you have the keys to the kingdom. Leave the game alone now. Let the devs do their thing, let people enjoy the game, and have a good time. I'm so glad they reversed their decision. I hope this brings things back around. I hope the negative reviews get reversed, so that the devs get a more positive image with them. I hope the game keeps progressing well. I hope we have tons of people flock to the player base, and I hope it gets ported to more consoles. I would love to see Helldivers 2 on Xbox, so that more people can experience this awesome game, so we can play with our friends, so we can have a better ecosystem of gamers, so we're not segregated by console. That's what I wanted to talk about today. I'm just really happy that it finally resolved and I could talk about it and with a positive ending. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.